Hi everyone, it's Loopiq again, sitting around playing games, and here we go. Today we're playing Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the hardest difficulty. Let me just set my controls there. So it occurs to me that the first thing I was planning on saying about this game is not necessarily something that a lot of people can relate to, really. And, you know, maybe that makes me a bit of a weirdo in general as a person. And, you know, maybe there are a lot of people on this earth that would agree with that as a statement in and of itself. But anyway, the thing that I was going to say, and in fact the thing that I am going to say, is that Street Fighter 2 is a game that I spent so many hours playing as a child and throughout my upbringing that I feel as if it's quite largely responsible for shaping the person that sits before you today. And that's probably quite a sad thing for me to admit, really. And, you know, I doubt that it's at all for the best, to be fair. And I'm sure that people in previous generations would say that things that helped shape who they are as people, and the things that really inspired and influenced them, would be more like great works of art, or something a lot more charming, like an old 78 vinyl with some really nice, relaxing music on it. But in my case, it turned out to be this. A silly little 2D cartoon beat-em-up computer game that features an electronic jungle beast monster and a stretchy-limbed Indian man that teleports and breathes fire. But that was my life, and those were the things that I was drawn to. And had they been around for Generation X or any of the previous generations, then I would argue that they would probably be drawn to this instead of some awesome Monet painting or a Stefan Grappelli vinyl. But you know, it's my life, and I'm not ashamed of it. Well, maybe I am, but the point is that from an early age, playing Street Fighter showed me that I do enjoy being a little bit competitive from time to time, which, dare I say, is maybe a little bit out of character for me. You know, I don't really consider myself to be a particularly competitive person in general.
You win. Perfect.
Although I do enjoy the company of competitive people, you know, people who just by nature have got to win, you know, all the time, at everything. And I'm sure that largely that's due to the fact that those were the kinds of people that would hang out with me when I was young, and would spend hours and hours of their own time trying to kick my ass, essentially, on games like this one. But more importantly, at the time, when I was young, they were the people that would put their hands in their pockets to try and prove that they could beat me.
You win. Perfect. Round one.
But you have to understand, when I was young, people generally didn't have games consoles in their homes, and the ones that they did have weren't really anything up to the standard of the arcade machines that you could go and visit. And I used to go to this little video shop called AD Video in Wellington, in Somerset, and they had this seedy little smelly back room that was frequented by spotty little teenagers like myself that would go there and spend ridiculous amounts of time and, you know, ludicrous amounts of their own money just popping in 50p after 50p, putting in credits on Street Fighter, trying to prove something. And I remember when I was a kid, my dad told me, and, you know, he might actually be watching this, so, you know, hi Dad. He said to me, "How much money did you spend at that AD Video last week?" You know, he didn't really approve. He was saying, "Oh, I don't really want you to spend that much time there anymore with all those spotty teenagers in that seedy, smelly back room." And, you know, fair enough. I didn't actually answer him at the time, but I remember thinking, well, I spent about £4 last time I went in there, but I made £3, so, you know, it really ain't that bad.
You win. Perfect.
You did quite well, says Ryu. Quite well. Now the bonus stage. I used to love this. And actually this is kind of where it all started for me. I remember asking one of the guys at AD Video in that seedy little back room how to do a Dragon Punch, because I didn't know at the time, and he showed me a few. I saw him kind of doing that move against the computer, and he got to a bonus stage and he goes, "Here you go, practice the Dragon Punch," like that. And that was kind of the nice thing about us sharing that experience and being in that room together, is that we could kind of teach each other and be mentors to each other and stuff. Only we could do it all under the pretense that we wanted to kill each other and knock each other out. And I must admit, it was a very enjoyable time for me doing that. And so, you know, I wanted to stay there, but, you know, obviously it does cost money to keep popping in those credits. And it was 1 credit for 1 life. And I remember it was 30p for 1 life and 50p for 2. Which don't really seem like a lot of money, but when you're 11 years old, you know.
You. Perfect.
You what? I what?
Round 2. Fight.
Do I perhaps detect a slight amount of bitterness coming from the computer? Just can't bring itself to admit that it lost again. Ah, but what am I saying? What's the use? The computer is unprovocable. Unlike human beings. And more specifically, the kinds of human beings that would attend video gaming arcades and bet money on rounds of Street Fighter 2. I remember it used to be music to my ears when somebody would come up to me and say, "Hurry up and lose, so that I can play." Because straight away I felt like that is the kind of person that could just play into my hands.
You win. Perfect.
Ah, there we go, he said it this time. Nice to see that you and I have come to an understanding, Mr. Computer.
USA.
So anyway, back to that guy that tells you to lose so that you can get up and play on the arcade. You know, we all know the type. At that point, if I was feeling particularly daring that day, I would purposefully lose. I'd make him believe that I sucked, which is an easy trick to play really as a kid. Because, you know, a lot of these guys had a good 5, maybe 10 years on me. And they just assumed from the outset, because of my age, that I sucked, which is something that I felt I could use to my advantage. So I would lose in front of these guys, and I'd make them believe that I was shit at this game, which was a bit of a gamble, you know. It cost me a credit, it cost me 30p. But anyway, they would get on the 1-player side on the left where I was, they'd take over, and they'd start fighting against the computer. And at this point I would challenge them, so I'd go over to the 2-player side and put in some money and press start. And then what that does is it interrupts your single-player game, and it says, "Here comes a new challenger," and somebody else comes in. And you basically fight for who gets to play next.
You win. Perfect.
And then what I'd do is I'd put the cursor over the character that I was going to be in the character select, but I wouldn't press go. I would say to the person, "How about we make this interesting?" I'd pull out 50p or maybe a quid, and I'd put it down and I say, "If you beat me, then you get that quid, and if I beat you, then I get a quid," yeah? So we both put a quid down in the middle, and the winner takes the money, would you say? And often I would get this kind of confused, slightly surprised facial expression back in return. And, you know, sometimes they'd accept, sometimes they wouldn't. But I remember a couple times I'd beaten some guys and they just went back on the deal and they took back their own money. And to start with, there wasn't really a whole lot I could do about that because I was just a little kid and they were much older and bigger and uglier than me.
You win. Perfect. USA.
But I remember one day there was a guy who tried to take his money back the same as a couple guys did in the past, and I just expected that he'd take it and then I wouldn't be able to do anything. But this time it was slightly different. There were some guys watching, and one of the guys was the dude that gave me that free credit on the car and helped me practice the Dragon Punch and that. And they were there to say to the guy, no, that's out of order, you lost fair and square, give him the money. Which was pretty cool, I thought. And that's when I used to take a position with guys that were really sour like that. I would basically say to them that I will not fight you unless you put money down. And that's really how I supported myself in that arcade, you know. It wasn't really a force for making money or earning money. Any money I did make I just spent on sweets, you know, and fizzy drinks and stuff. But it kept me in the arcade and it kept me playing Street Fighter. You know, it was enough to keep me afloat in that seedy little dirty, dark and dingy room around the back of AD Video.
You win. Perfect.
Because that's how I decided that I wanted to spend my time. Oh, here we go, the brick bonus stage. This was my favourite. I bloody love this bonus stage. Mostly because I developed this little trick here where you combo a standing heavy punch into a hurricane kick, and you can just be very efficient in destroying all those bricks, just like that. Lovely. So needless to say, I was pretty arrogant as a kid, really, and it was unfortunate that my arrogance was a force that actually earned me money, because it was the money that kept my arrogance afloat, you know, and it brought about all these delusions of grandeur, you know. I used to think that if I continued to up my game, and that if I maybe became a better hustler or entered competitions or something, that I would actually start to earn money out of this, you know, as a living. And I would fantasize as a kid that Street Fighter might actually turn out to be a legitimate source of income for me in my life. Which is ridiculous really now when I think about it. But back then I was a bit more of a kind of business-minded, capitalist, first world little twat. You know? Whereas these days I'd describe myself as something more of a socialist, left-wing, evangelical twat. And I suppose what I mean by that is that I was very financially motivated back then, and virtually everything that I did I was always thinking, I always had in the back of my mind, how can I make money out of this?
You win. Perfect.
And maybe that's because I wanted to bring meaning into what I did when I was young. You know, if it makes me money, then obviously it's a valid activity. And who cares if it achieves nothing in particular? And who cares if it's using up electricity that's burning fossil fuels, that's contributing to the destruction of the planet and everybody's home? And who cares about all the other incredible and amazing things that I could be doing with my time? And who cares about all the overly competitive people that I'm responsible for infuriating? You know, and who cares about all of the potential hatred for me that I was building up, and, you know, the dangerous position that I was putting myself in? Because I'm sure I used to get this feeling that there were people that despised me. You know, to them I was just some super arrogant little kid that would kick their ass at Street Fighter repetitively, and, you know, these were maybe skills that they were quite proud of. And I would say to these people, particularly those who were desperate to beat me, that I would refuse to fight them unless they put money down. You know, and that's not a particularly friendly stance to take.
USA.
But anyway, it's probably worth saying right now that the video that you're watching right now is a perfect run-through of Street Fighter, but it is actually a sham. It's, you know, it's tomfoolery, it's a trick. I mean, I couldn't come round your house and show you a perfect run-through of Street Fighter. I couldn't do that. I mean, this is not a display of my skill, it's just entertainment for you. I understand that, you know, watching somebody play Street Fighter is not something that most people would really like to do with their time, unless maybe they're watching something that's exceptional. And the video that you're watching right now is actually the result of a very long, kind of tedious, strenuous, drawn-out process.
You win. Perfect.
The barrel bonus stage. This one was solid. This one was really tough to get perfect, and it's pretty risky every time. There comes a point halfway where the barrels come so quick you have to start using faster moves, and there's a chance that the barrel might not break first time. I was lucky actually that I was able to hit the barrels in such a right way that they all broke. There we go. DPFTW. And if you understand what that means, then you are a super geek. So well done for that. I have nothing but respect and admiration for the nerds and mega geeks amongst us. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I wouldn't be able to rank this as an official playthrough of Street Fighter, although you will notice that the score at the top is consistent and that I haven't just mixed together lots of different rounds where I happen to get perfect. That's not how I've done it. And although I am using an emulator to play this game, I'm not using save states either. I want to make that absolutely clear. And I will admit to everybody that this video is actually, if you're going to look at it in an official context, it is a hoax and it is invalid, you know, speaking competitively. And if I didn't admit that to you, then socially speaking, I would be a fraud, you know? I'd be no better than Uri Geller, and I can't stand that man, so, you know, I don't really ever want to be compared to him, so I'm admitting this to you right now. But having said that, there's a magician in me that refuses to give away his tricks, and I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out how I've done this, given that I haven't used any save states. Given that the score that I've achieved now, which is like over 1 million, is consistent from round to round.
You win. Perfect.
And that this playthrough of the game will recognise me as somebody that got a perfect on every single round of Street Fighter. How did I do it? Eh? Tell me how I did it. I dare you. If you tell me how I did it, then I'll buy you a meal. If you get it exactly right, then I'll order a Just Eat to go to your house. Just tell me, you know, if you like Indian, Chinese, what kind of food you like, I'll just get it delivered to you. I think that only works if you live in the UK though. And I'm only going to do that for the first person that tells me that. But no one's going to tell me, because it's too difficult to figure out, and, you know, largely because, you know, the internet is a massive shouting match, and, you know, nobody's really paying attention anyway.
You win. Perfect.
Although recently, instead of perceiving the internet as just one massive shouting match that I have to compete with, I more have come to see it as lots and lots of people who are really bored and who need entertaining, you know? I mean, you people out there, you need something to look at. You need some flashy images and moving colours on a screen and sounds and words and that for you to look at and listen to. And that's my challenge these days. It's a challenge to myself. You know, to keep you guys from getting bored to tears. You know, I wouldn't want that. Who would want that? And there you have it, kids. That's how Ryu defeated Sagat the second time. He gave him another dragon punch across the chest, and although he soaked it this time, Ryu pulled out one of his super special golden fireballs, which was really no different to a blue fireball other than that it's gold. So here we are, fighting M. Bison, the final boss of Street Fighter 2. See, in Street Fighter 1, Sagat, the last guy, was the boss, but now he's just a sub-boss because there's this better dude, M. Bison, who's come along. I used to think when I was a kid that M actually stood for Mario, and that M. Bison is actually Mario all grown up, you know, Super Mario. I mean, look at him, he's got the hat and the suit, and his first initial is M. I mean, what more do you need? It's clearly Mario.
You win. Perfect.
Only now he's got some armour added onto him, and, you know, he bought that armour from a shop after he saved Princess Daisy and all that. He developed a few new skills, like the ability to make his hands go all glowing and weird, so that he can punch the shit out of you with his glowing weird hand. And maybe the bison bit is Mario's ultimate title for his final evolution. You know, you got Mini Mario, you got full-size Mario, you got Raccoon Mario, and then there's Mario Bison. You know, it's kind of like an Incredible Hulk version of Mario. You know, maybe after that massive epic journey that he did, the princess dumped him whilst he was on mushrooms, and he just saw red. And that was it, his fate was sealed, Mario Bison was born. But anyway, he's old news now. Nobody cares about Mario Bison anymore, not since Ryu kicked his ass. So here we go, this is Ryu's ending. We're at the awards ceremony, and where's Ryu? He's not here, you know? He didn't, but, you know, Ryu doesn't want the glory. He doesn't care about the prize. He didn't do it for the prize. He does it because he wants to fight people, you know, he just likes kicking people's ass and being a badass, and that's Ryu. And there's a lesson to be learnt from this, really. I mean, why do we even play Street Fighter in the first place? I mean, do we just do it because we want to see the ending? Like, no. You know, that's not what motivates us to play computer games. If we just wanted to see the ending, and you could just look it up on YouTube, couldn't you? You could just watch it. But that's not what motivates us, you know? It's not that simple. Life is not that simple. I was only joking, not really. It is about standing on the podium and getting the glory. It is about seeing the ending, and that's why we play games, isn't it? Life really is that simple. It just takes someone like Ryu to demonstrate this to us. So, that's nearly everything. But on the SNES, if you get a ridiculously high score, then they show you a super special ending thing that happens at the end, which is very rare. Not many people actually get to see it. Although I will say that the music is just so god-awful on the SNES that I had to overdub something else. So to play us out, I'm going to put on a track that I made using Reason and my computer when I was younger, that hopefully portrays some of the love and nostalgia that I feel for this game. But anyway, thanks for watching. This was a really long video, so thank you very much for watching this one. That's awesome of you, and hopefully there'll be more of them in the future. Be well, take care, have fun, and enjoy yourselves.
10, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Brazil, India, Japan, USA, USSR, Spain, Thailand. Fight!